Hello and welcome to another episode of UpGrade with Maria Kay, the podcast where your success, freedom and happiness get a weekly boost. And a warm welcome to you again. I'm always overjoyed to know that you have taken time out of your busy schedule, your hectic life, to pay attention to the parts of your life that you are wishing to upgrade. Only you know that. Now, I know for some of you, you've been posting and sharing, and I know that you're in a really, really good progressive space. Keep going. If you haven't yet joined our Facebook group, guys, simply search UpGrade with Maria Kay, knock on the door, as so to speak, and we will let you in and you get to play, have fun, post, share, get support. The support that you really deserve, and also maybe make any request with regards to topics, and I will do my best. Chances are you'll see it crop up in future podcasts. So a big salute to you for segmenting this time, whether you're laying in your bed, in the bath, driving with your headphones on a nature walk, cleaning the house, right? Whatever it may be. It's a pleasure to be with you. And today's topic is all about upgrading your mindset, right? And your mindset includes any of the self-talk, right? You know, the kind of little outbursts that we have against ourselves now and again, or quite often, it depends, right? How we think, how we feel, our thoughts, our beliefs, they all impact on how we do or do not move forward. They can propel us forward, much like a bow and arrow, right? Or they can hold us really stuck, much like an anchor at the bottom of the ocean. So I'm encouraging you today to start to connect, become aware of what's going on in your mind. If you want to get a good indication or a starting point, have a look at what's going on around you, in your relationships, in your finances, in your career at work, with your children, with your body, with your health, or any area of your life that you're currently unhappy with. Rather than just pointing and saying, I'm not happy with that, or it's so awful, or it's never going to get better. Really, really invite yourself to look at what you believe around that. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Maria Kay, and I help people all over the world to bring their lives from a place of stuckness, darkness, unhappiness, confusion, mediocre, to a place of soaring above the clouds, clarity beyond belief, and a steady, powerful, never turning back, upgrading to exactly where they want to be in their life, in the areas of relationships, money, health, career, business, pretty much any area of life you can fathom. And we do this step by step on a weekly basis, distantly or in person, depending on where you are in the world. I am currently living in India on a beach. I'm loving it. This was my big upgrade that happened last year. If you haven't already heard the ins and outs and the stories, go and listen to previous podcasts, and I share a lot about how hard it was, how exhilarating it was, how amazing and exciting, and all the nitty-gritty details in there. And we all get to a point in our life where we start to feel stuck, right? And a lot of us might misconstrue that as life's ending, There's no hope. This is my lot. This is what I've got to put up with. Right? But by our very nature, we are evolving beings. We are not designed to stay the same. Aside from the fact that we're all going to age, and I am, grey hairs and all. Aside from that, if we remove the physical for a second and just think about the spiritual part of us, there is a constant desire for more. So that thing that you're desiring, allow yourself to desire it. That thing that you are wanting to change, don't feel bad about wanting to change. Celebrate it, because it means that you're connected, you're living, you're alive. So how do we manage to move from a very comfortable place, house, car, job, social circle? How do we do that when that's what we've been experiencing for as long as we can remember? It's comfortable, it's safe. We know what's going to happen tomorrow. We know what's going to happen in a month. We know at the end of the month we're getting our paycheck. We know that money goes there and that money goes there and that's what I'm left with. We know there are no surprises. How do we go from that to taking the next step up? Well, first of all, we call upon one of the biggest power tools that we have at our fingertips. And that is our mind. Our mind, if used cleverly, the way it's actually designed to be used, it can propel you light years ahead. And quite quickly, I made the transition last year from the UK to India within 6 weeks of having made a clear, concrete decision. Now, if you want to experience those kinds of upgrades, the kinds of upgrades where you look back and you think, whoa, when did that happen? Right? And keep listening. So our lives are made up of tiny, 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 tiny building bricks. Imagine Lego, pieces of Lego put together, and the Lego represent your thoughts. They represent what's going on in your mind, right? If I put a pile of Lego in front of you, right, chances are you'll have your favorite colors. And if I told you to build something, you'll have your favorite colors, you'll have your favorite shapes. You'll have the pieces of Lego that call you the most, that attract you the most. You're going to select them very carefully so that you can build the end result, the model that you desire to build. The same applies to our life. Now, our life is made up of tons and tons and tons of what I call mini upgrades, right? We might decide that on Monday, we're going to, instead of drinking 6 cups of coffee a day, that we're going to bring it down to 3. That for me is an upgrade, right? We may decide that because it's spring now, instead of taking public transport, we're going to walk to the office. That for me is an upgrade. Those are the little pieces of Lego that we put together in order to make the big model. But we first must think those things. We first must allow them to spark in our mind as if you're lighting a match, right? You can't reduce your caffeine intake from 6 coffees to 2 without having first focused on it very, very specifically. So when we're wanting to make a bigger upgrade in our life, we have to spend time and more time and repetitively more and more time thinking about what we want to create rather than what is. Our thoughts create our reality. You cannot light a fire if you don't ignite the match. So, and I'm sure you've all tried to do it. If you've ever been camping or anything like that, and the box of matches has got a little bit soggy in the rain, right? And you pull one out, you open the box, you pull one out and you try to light it. It doesn't work. It's soggy. It's been contaminated. So it's really important that your thoughts don't get contaminated or soggy. Now, our thoughts also include our word, how we speak. If we decide to meet our friend for coffee and we sit there for the whole hour complaining about what is, complaining about why we can't upgrade our life, why we can't change a certain aspect, why things are so awful, right? Before you speak the words, they first must ignite as thoughts, right? And let me let you into a secret. You may have heard me say this before. Your cells have ears. So does the universe. So does every other cooperative component that swoops in every time you want to create something or you affirm something, whether you affirm it as a positive or as a negative. Most of you will have heard of Louise Hay and the amazing work she's done with affirmations. She was one of my very, very first mentors, spiritual teachers, although I've never met her in person. She was the one, her material helped pull me out the very dark depths of eating disorders. And affirmations have really played a huge role in my life. But most of us think that affirmations are purely something we look in the mirror and say, 5 times a day, I am thin, I am thin, I am thin, I am thin, right? Most people don't really understand that we're affirming all day long. And that hour-long coffee that we're having with a friend that we've just sat and spewed negativity all over the table, that is also an hour of affirming, right? So being impeccable with your word is also a big contributing factor to upgrading your mindset. Now, Don Miguel Ruiz wrote an amazing book. Go and look for it. It's called The 4 Agreements if you haven't already read it. And the first agreement is be impeccable with your word. Be impeccable with your word. And it means think before you speak. Is what I'm about to say in line with who I want to be? The person I would like to become. Now, if you want to become a millionaire, right, which most of us do, then you need to start thinking like a millionaire. Now, you might think that's impossible. I can't because I'm not. But there are small, subtle ways, and it can take time. Coming back to Don Miguel Ruiz's The 4 Agreements, the last agreement is always do your best. So I'm not suggesting that from one day to the next, you're going to become this super mindful, never blurt out negativity kind of person. It doesn't work that way. It's not expected of you. This is why we are human beings. It happens gradually. So if you have been bumping up, for example, against the same issue or block or problem or worry, for as long as you can remember, I recommend that you take some time to identify, first of all, this undesired thing, situation, problem, pattern. Identify it. Get really, really real with it. What is it? Do I argue with my partner on a certain night of the week? Do I make undesired food choices on a certain day of the week? Am I constantly chasing my tail with paying off debt? So get really clear, identify, and then raise your awareness. Around the subject, around the situation. Why and how? So again, this is where quality questions come in. Ask yourself, what thoughts am I constantly entertaining in my mind that are leading to this? Am I thinking every Friday after my partner's been working a long week, he's exhausted, I'm exhausted, we always argue? Am I thinking that it's useless every Wednesday after I've been to such and such club, or I've worked a late shift, I can't help it, it's impossible, my body's exhausted, I always opt for a McDonald's, right? Or are you thinking, it's impossible, my father always told me that I'm a girl, so I'll always need to be provided for by a man. Therefore, I'll never get out of debt. I'll never make it financially. Right? Going deep. Very often we don't have to go too deep. Sometimes we do. In a little while, I'm going to take you through a short activation to help just unearth those stubborn beliefs. And then step number 3 is choose differently. Now, this is where hyper awareness is really necessary. Now, if we're constantly rushing around, living day by day, racing 1,000 miles an hour, your awareness is not going to be very supportive. It's not going to be enough for you to really unpick what's happening. So here's a little trick that you can do, a little tool. And most of you, I'm imagining, have smartphones these days where you can set a timer for an alarm to go off. Now, of course, you'll have to decide when the right time of day that is for you. You know, if you're in meetings all day, you won't want to set this alarm to go off. But once you've figured out the logistics of it, set the alarm and set a reminder to check in with your mind. Check in with your mindset. Now, I recommend that you do it, at least 3 or 4 or 5 times per day. You might want to do it in the morning, on your lunch break, if you have breaks in between. Or if you work a flexi schedule, then it'll change every day, especially first thing in the morning and last thing at night, right? That's definitely a non-negotiable. And if you've been following on for a while, you'll know how important journaling is, having a book or a journal where you can just sort of pour things out, and that will also really help with your mindset. And when this time has gone off, open up your journal and just write. What am I thinking? How am I feeling? What am I worried about? And you'll start to see on a lot more closer level what is preoccupying your mind. Now, it's important that you take responsibility, because really no one can do this for you. And as many of the amazing therapies and modalities and processes that are created and out there, right? Hypnotherapy and NLP and, you name it, it's all really powerful, amazing stuff. But it's what happens in between our sessions when we go to these amazing therapists. It's what happens just before we go to sleep. right? It's what's going on in our mind when we're driving on that long journey. It's what's going on in our mind when we're having a conversation with our partner or looking at our finances. So whether those thoughts that you keep thinking stem from childhood, adolescence, yesterday, last year, or even maybe a past life. As I've said before, some of you will, some of you won't buy into that. Completely your choice, right? By doing this on a daily basis, tapping in, sitting in raised awareness, in connection with what is in your mind, allowing it, almost opening a little doorway and allowing it to pour out onto the page for a few seconds for a few times a day, you're one step closer to upgrading your mind, right? We can't upgrade something that we don't have the knowledge of. So once you see the inner workings, once you become familiar with the inner workings, you can then move on to the next step, which is choosing differently, right? And it really is as simple as spotting, and you'll become good at this, much better at this, right? You'll become really, really accomplished at detecting when your thoughts aren't serving you, right? So if you have a tendency to, I'll come back to the same example for simplicity's sake, to get into a fight with your partner on Friday evening when everyone's exhausted, the kids are screaming, you're tired, no one wants to cook. You might have a social engagement or commitment that you have to adhere to. And here we go again. Now, if you're aware of the expectation, the thoughts that create expectation that appear, and you feel them, see them, become aware of them in that moment, in that very moment, you can stop, you can pause, and you can say, I don't have to do this. I don't have to buy into this story. Because beliefs and thoughts, they create stories, right? Now, Don Miguel Ruiz, again, he's written The Fifth Agreement. Now, I love this, the whole of the stories that he uses to describe and explain how our mind works and how it impacts on our lives in a positive or a negative way. So the fifth agreement is all about us changing the story. And this is really apt for what we're talking about today. So in that moment where you perhaps hear the key in the lock as your partner comes in, and you feel the expectation, you feel the energy of past weeks reappearing, because your mind's telling you that's what's going to happen. The story starts to play on loop, as if you went to the movies and there was something wrong with the theatre projector, and it was playing the same movie on loop. It would finish, then it would start directly again. It would finish, and it would start again. Once you sense that, once you're aware of that, you can choose differently. And it would go something very simply like this. I don't have to do this, right? Here's a tip that I use all the time, right? Very often I'll tap on the left side of on my head, which is the home of your left brain, which is the storyteller, right? It is the one that wants to keep you in that stuck, safe place the same time and time again. And I'll tap it and say, oi, wake up. No, not now. Thank you. Right? So you can figure out your own little coding or your own little sort of mantra. Right? Very often for me, it's a plain old no, thank you. I choose differently, and you decide what you choose. So you become affiliated with your mind rather than the enemy. You become the ally rather than the enemy. And you work together, right? Many, many visions and analogies come to my mind. Often I'll see myself walking hand in hand with my mind. Come on, let's be friends. Let's do this together. We're on the same team. Yeah. Now, our mind is a power tool. And if we think of any kind of power tool, a drill, chainsaw, in the right hands, those pieces of equipment have the potential to do amazing things, right? Get people out of car wreckages, build beautiful structures. The list is pretty endless. But in the wrong hands, they can cause huge destruction. And your mind is no different. Your mind can build beautiful structures or create huge destruction. And you have the ability to effect that. You have the ability to discern which outcome you prefer. Now, I'm pretty sure you know which one you prefer. Now, the fun part is getting stuck in. Every day, tapping in, tuning in. What am I thinking? What's happening in my mind? And you know what? As Don Miguel Ruiz said in his fourth agreement, always do your best. That's all you can do. You know, you might go through a whole week without tapping in and having a crazy, yucky, horrible week and everything's gone wrong and you feel downright awful. Everything that you're struggling with magnifies and explodes. And then you'll get to a point and you'll think, okay, it's all done. And you'll just recalibrate. You'll jump back on the horse. No harm done. You can always turn things around, starting today. But just knowing that your mind rules the roost, leads the show, right, and being equipped with that piece of information will give you that boost, right, that you came here to find, that the boost that you're listening for, right, in your success, your freedom, and your happiness, and any area of your life that you're currently unhappy with. It's a given. It's a non-negotiable. If you start to pay attention to what you're thinking, you will see changes in your life very quickly. Now, if you want to take this even further, a very powerful activity is to go to the root of the belief, the root of the thought. Now, it's not always possible and it doesn't always serve you, right? Doesn't always serve you to know why and how and to delve and go backwards and backwards and backwards. Years and years and years worth of delving, psychoanalyzing, right? Sometimes it does serve you though. So if you can do that, right? If you can go backwards and say, okay, well, my father told me that because I'm a girl, I will always need to be provided for by a man, and that's the way things are. But what happens when you're not provided for by a man? What happens when you get to adult life and you are a single mother and blah, 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 blah? What happens, right? The belief that may not have come up for 20 odd years, that didn't get in the way because maybe you were, quote unquote, provided for by a man, may, after 20 odd years, be really critical for your survival, right? And this is what happened to me, my friends. Okay. Again, no blame placing, no finger pointing. It's just plain old the way it is. So in those instances, it's really crucial to connect with why. Why do I believe that? Now, very often it won't be anything too drastic other than, well, why do I believe that you have to eat turkey on Christmas Day? Well, because my mum did it, my mother's mum did it, my mother's mum did it. Generations before, we just do the same thing. Does anybody really know why? So, and this is another pointer that I give a lot, is to question everything. Don't take things at face value, right? If you do something that you've done and for years and years and years and you don't know why you do it, then, especially if it's not serving you, my friends, especially if it's not making you happy, right? Change it. Change your mind. Change your mind and change your life, simply, very simply. So ensuring that the things that you think about the most, the things that you do the most, the things that you speak about are in line with your bigger, upgraded vision. Okay, it's important. So taking you now into a short activation to bring today to an end. So find a comfortable position, taking as much space as you need right now. And just bring awareness to your breath. Allow your body to relax, your mind to just be still. Now feel into, as if you're climbing into your mind, as if it were an adventure climbing frame. Pull yourself up and into it. Much like a joyride at the fun fair. As you sit in the car and you're taken through the experience, you see things on your left, on your right, in front of you. What do you see in front of you? It's still very light. You can see easily. The visibility is very clear. So you can see things that are in your conscious mind very clearly. And as you progress, you start to see that it becomes darker. Visibility is decreasing now as you move forward. And there's music playing. And you see figures and people and circumstances, events, scenarios. You recognize a lot. Some of it you don't recognize. Not instantly, anyway. Everything you're seeing represents your thoughts, your beliefs, the parts of your mind that rule the roost, that lead the way. And as you move through on this fairground ride, you have heightened awareness. The sole aim of this ride, apart from fun, is to get to the end equipped with information that will help you upgrade your mindset. your thoughts, your self-talk, your inner chatter. You might see a scenario in one corner of you looking in the mirror and berating your body, your physical looks. You might see a scenario to the left of you and your partner not being part of the same team, feeling like one another is in it for themselves rather than there to support one another. You might see yourself in a space of your finances and beliefs and thoughts that surround that area of your life. You notice, you become aware of, you get crystal clarity around thought patterns that are holding you stuck. And you get crystal clarity on how to change those thought patterns, on how to choose differently. And as you go deeper and deeper into this space of awareness, you then allow the thoughts that don't serve you to fade into the background, getting weaker and weaker, more and more distant, less and less prominent. And the thoughts that do serve you jump up, become bright, loud, and totally visible. As you move forward into closer proximity to your upgraded life. Closer and closer. You can see it, feel it, taste it. The change you are seeking, the change you are putting into action. Now, as you gently bring yourself back to the now, take hold of your pen and your paper and write down the thoughts that you need to think moving forward in order to support your upgrade. Now, I'm sending you as much love as you can absorb in this moment. If you have questions, queries, if you want feedback, support, help with anything that we've talked about today, or anything else for that matter, please do connect with me on Facebook. Simply search Maria K, UpGrade with Maria K rather, or either one you can search and you'll find me. And I'd be so happy to step in and help you with this or any subject.